Thanks very much to Pay Dirt for the opportunity, and also to the Deputy Minister for her words on South Africa and explaining the commitment that South Africa has to the mining industry. It goes without saying there's obviously a very long history of successful operations in South Africa, and the commitment we've had from the department is excellent. We're very pleased that the Minister for Mines, Kweti Mantashe, visited Prieska only recently with a full entourage, demonstrating a lot of support. Interestingly, the Minister worked there for about 8 years as a young man, so he obviously has a strong affiliation with Prieska and its history. With Orion, we're at a point now where we've taken 2 projects in the Northern Cape to full permitting. So I'll focus on those 2. We have a large exploration package as well, which I won't have time to go through, but I'll just focus on, there's obviously the usual disclaimer. Just the company snapshot. We are listed on the ASX and we are dual listed on the JSE. It was a very good move to do that dual listing, as is highlighted in the graphs here, where we have over 50% of our shares are now transferred to the JSE. There's a lot of support. Our holdings, 50% out of the JSE, out of South Africa. We've got 23,000 shareholders in South Africa, and we although there's trading still on the ASX, the bulk of the trading occurs in South Africa. And that's just been demonstrated through ongoing support, which we obviously appreciate. We have strong support from a number of larger institutions, Tembo Capital, Delphi out of Germany, some of the local investors, Clover, Tom Borman, an ex-director, is also a very strong supporter. We have a very good board. Recently we appointed Tony Lennox as Managing Director, who replaced Errol Smart back in early April. The important thing here is Tony has developed about 6 large underground mines. He ran Palabora in South Africa for Rio and Anglo for about 4 years. So having his expertise, in terms of this stage of execution and development is very important for us, and we welcome Tony to the board and into that position. And apologies for Tony not being here today. He's got commitments offshore. His son is actually getting married, so I think it's a fair enough reason not to be here. So I drew the short straw, so you'll have to put up with me. Look, just quickly on our package, very large package in the Northern Cape. We identified this back in 2017, looking for different projects globally. We took a view on base metals, critical metals, and we identified the Prieska copper mine. It had run for 20 odd years, and nothing's been done there until we got involved drilling it, which I'll cover in more detail shortly, for about 35 years, which is staggering for an endowment that it has and the opportunity that it presents. We identified that there was significant mineralisation at depth still, which I'll cover in more detail as well. But we put together a very large land package in the Northern Cape, around Prieska to the northwest of Prieska, and then identified O'Keepe, which is another very significant copper producer. It's incredible when you think about 2 million tonnes of copper were produced at O'Keepe. Nothing's been done there for 30 odd years, nearly 35 years. Between O'Keepe and Prieska, there's been 2.5 million tonnes of copper produced and over 1 million tonnes of zinc, and there hasn't been any production for that period of time, for a number of decades. If it were in Australia, clearly there would be a lot of the bigger players would be all over it, but we saw this as an opportunity. We went into Prieska initially, and the opportunity there was we drilled out about 85,000 metres of diamond core, had 20 diamond rigs going. Again, it just highlighted the expertise in South Africa. We were able to mobilise all of those rigs, wedging and so forth. Was incredible, really, that the expertise in South Africa. So the opportunity for us now to take it through the next stage. We're fully permitted with both Prieska and O'Keepe. You can see the numbers here. It's the starting point really at Prieska. It's got an NPV of 568 million. It's got an internal rate of return of 31% pre-tax, 26 post-tax. It's got we've got a 55% margin in terms of operating costs versus revenue. That was at the time of the DFS, which was released at the end of March. There's obviously been an increase in metal prices since then. So we see Prieska, that's our flagship, and I'll go through that in more detail. O'Keep is a brilliant opportunity. We've pulled together I think there was 14 vendors that we had to deal with to try and, like herding cats, but we managed to pull it off. We've got a fantastic position at O'Keep. It's really more about the upside there. It's the DFS that was released was really because there was a mining right and we needed to get to a point where we could look at commencement. But there's further optimisation work going on at O'Keep, and I'll discuss that in a bit more detail. But just at Prieska itself, it's one of the largest VMS slabs in the world. Probably sits in the top 10 or so as a single load. Over close to 50 million tonnes was mined by Anglo Vaal over a 20-year period. Produced over 1 million tonnes of zinc and nearly 500,000 tonnes of copper. This ore body is very contiguous. Geotechnically, it's amazing. You go underground for kilometres and you don't even see a rock bolt. So metallurgically, it's excellent. Very high quality cons. The metal traders are very much aware of what Prieska can deliver in very high quality separate zinc and copper concentrates. The main part that we're focused on is at depth. You can see that red keel zone. If you look at there's the vertical limb on the right on your right hand side slide there. That's basically over about 2.8 kilometres long, very vertical. Then it goes into a syncline. There's a big keel zone in there. It's up to 30 or 40 metres wide. It wasn't mined when it closed down. Obviously, prices were very low, but also the technology back then. They didn't have paste fill plants, backfill. So we've been able to drill out 31 million tonnes in the keel zone, and that's what the focus is in the long run. Initially, we'll be mining the supergene zone at the uppers, and we're going to stage the development. So we'll run the uppers for around 3 or 4 years, and that'll get us match fit for the big program. At depth, we'll be producing only about 20,000 tonnes a month initially, and then it'll jump to 200,000 tonnes a month, which was even at that level is less than what was being mined back in its heyday, which was close to 3 million tonnes a year. We're planning on doing 2,400,000 tonnes a year. We've commenced dewatering in the mine. Unfortunately, the farmers took away the bunding and sold it as aggregate, so we had about 30 odd years of water ingress through just from rainwater. It doesn't make water as such. It's a dry mine, but we've got to pump out about 8 million cubes, which is a bit of a pain, but we've trialled it. We're managing it well. That will occur over the next couple of years while we commence mining in the uppers. You can see that it's a small picture, but we've got about 23,000 tonnes of material sitting on surface at the moment from our trial mining of the uppers. So progressing to the execution phase, as I mentioned, we've got 2 fully permitted projects. There's not a lot of copper projects around the world that are fully permitted. Literally, we're now able to push the button on both projects, and we're now just working through the funding phase. As I pointed out here, we've got a number of funding options we're working through with offtake parties. With the metal traders very keen on the concentrates, as I mentioned earlier. So we're working with the big boys on this front, and that's going to contribute significantly to the development costs of the mines, particularly at Prieska. Tony has done a great job also, just in terms of project execution governance, operational readiness, and value engineering. He's been able to bring in a fantastic team of guys that worked at Palabora. Getting project ready, development ready is really important, and that's what Tony's focus is. He wants to see this operation up and running as soon as possible. Just from a timeline, the uppers, we're looking at from funding, and we're working on that over the next 2 to 3 months. It's a subset of the overall development costs, which are close to 580 million Aussie. We need about 50 million to start the uppers, and then we're looking at another 20 million to continue the dewatering of the deeps and some rehab of the decline. And then we'll stage that into the refurbishment of the shaft. Incredible infrastructure is in place, an 8 by 8 metre diameter shaft built by Anglo-Vail, completely over-engineered, which is great. Internal declines, as I mentioned, geotechnically the mine's excellent, metallurgically it's excellent. So we'll develop over a 13-month period, and our target is to be in production, getting concentrate on the deck by the end of next year. As I mentioned, we already have 20-odd thousand tonnes on surface, which will be helpful as starter feed. And then there'll be a 29-month period during which we will continue to dewater, refurb the shaft and get into production rates of 200,000 tonnes a month, nearly 2.5 million tonnes per annum. On O'Keep, there's a lot of optimisation work going on there. We see O'Keep as having enormous upside with a pedigree of 2 million tonnes of copper production historically. We did a Sky-10 program, first airborne program survey there in decades, and the old data obviously was very much outdated. From that work, we've identified multiple conductors, a lot of it associated with known mineralisation. So the opportunity at O'Keep from an exploration perspective, which I'll touch on a bit more later. Just in terms of where we sit on the global cost curve, if you take away the zinc and the silver and gold credits, Prieska sits right at the bottom end, under $1 a pound. It doesn't get much better than that. O'Keep on the base case optimisation, the DFS, it's sitting in the third quartile, but we can see a lot of opportunity for getting that down. That's based on about 1.2% copper grade for production. If you look at O'Keep, there are many deposits there that went +10 and a number went +20% copper. So the opportunity to find more of those and the upside that represents is really significant for us. To unlock the uppers and the deeps, again, we've gone through a sort of a bridging fundraising in recent months, an SPP. A lot of support of that came from South Africa and those shareholders I mentioned earlier, which is very much appreciated and really important. I think Orion is one of the few companies that presents those opportunities in South Africa for a lot of the smaller shareholders to participate. We're dealing with the offtake parties. That's very advanced. We're down to 2 main ones now, big players, big balance sheets, and they're keen to get our concentrates. So we're very, very much looking forward to putting that to bed in the very near future. We're also dealing with the IDC. They've also funded 250 million rand for the trial mining in the uppers. They're very much committed to the development of Prieska and to O'Keep. They're in fact equity partners in part of the O'Keep project, so there's a big incentive for them there to continue working with us. Over the next few months, it'll be completion of the offtake documentation and then funding. While that's going on, there'll be the coordinated funding efforts with IDC. We already have an $80 million stream funding from Triple Flag out of the US and Canada, and they'll be working with us to contribute towards the development funds for the deeps. I won't go through this in detail, obviously, but there is a critical line here. A lot of detail has gone into it. Since Tony's got on board, there's been an enormous amount of work go into the development, execution plans, detailed and reducing any risk, bringing people who know what they're doing, who've got a great track record in producing concentrates. We've got that 13-month period. We've got a Christmas tree there. That's what we're targeting for the uppers for the end of next year. Beyond that, then you've got that 29 months through to building the big plant, the 2.4 million tonne per annum plant, and then moving through to production from the deeps. Just quickly on exploration, this is staggering as far as I'm concerned. You look at a project that's already produced over 1 million tonnes of zinc, 500,000 tonnes of copper, and it's 2.8 kilometres long and it's wide open. Target 3 down here is a down. We've got a very wide intercept. It's at the extremities of the ore body. It's the highest width, highest grades. We've done a downhole EM survey and have got a big conductor sitting off to the southeastern end. It's open to the northwest. We've got a parallel footwall lode. We've got up dip extensions on the vertical limb. So it's once we get down into dewatering, we've got a big program for drilling at Prieska, and we've got a 13-year life already. We can see that extending significantly without too much more work. At O'Keepe, I'm not going to go into much detail here, other than I mentioned before, 2 million tonnes have come out of this area. Nothing's been done for plus 30 years. We've got some brilliant targets here. We've done a lot of exploration work. We've got a lot of walk-up targets, which are analogous to the Carillasberg, where there's over 1 million tonnes of copper were recovered. So we'll be pursuing those in the near term, and we'll be looking forward to taking the optimisation work at O'Keepe through to the point where we have a very robust feasibility study, which will then follow the development of the Prieska operation. So just in summary, the next few months is really critical for Orion. We're very confident of getting those funds in place. We're going to look forward to commencing the construction of the small plant, and then we'll move through to continued dewatering, concentrates by the end of next year, and then a much bigger ramp up in the following couple of years, followed by O'Keepe and a very large exploration program in front of us. Thank you very much.